All right, final section of this letter. Having returned. This is perfect passive nominative plural because the subject is both Pliny and his mother. Having returned to Mincium, I'm going to imply an ad here. Ad Mincium. Then an ablative absolute. We have a new adverb that we haven't seen before, in whatever way possible for utquamque. So in whatever way possible, with our bodies having been cared for. So any minor first aid attention they might have need. And he says we spent, and he spent the night. Sorry, we spent the night, which was suspenseful and doubtful, referring to the night. In hope and in fear. So this would be an ablative of manner of how they spent that night. And of course, in the previous section, Pliny thought that he and everything along with him was going to die or perish. Then he says that fear is our subject. Was being very powerful. That is a imperfect tense. So the imperfect here is sort of like fear was continuing to be very powerful, is sort of the sense of it. For the shaking or tremor of the earth was persevering. And notice we have sort of the double et here. So both the fear of the earth, the tremor of the earth was persevering, and many people, many hysterical people, lymphati is hysterical, by terrifying predictions. I would say this is sort of the cause of their hysteria. So many people, you could imply the verb made hysterical by terrifying predictions. They were mocking their own and others' troubles. Mala is going to be our accusative neuter plural noun that I'm translating as troubles. So many people hysterical by their by terrifying predictions. They were mocking, that is a deponent verb, their own and others' troubles. So in other words, just a little bit of, dark humor was being passed around during this particular catastrophe. For us, however, tandem, for us, both experienced and expecting, expectantibus, because that is a present active participle, it will take periculum as its direct object. So both experienced in and expecting periculum, dangers. And that's referring to the nobis. For us, both experienced and expecting dangers. There was ne, we're going to put the ne here with the implied erat. There was not a concilium, a plan of departing or of leaving. Another way that you could phrase this, if you wanted to say, start with the nobis and say, for us, tandem, however, ne tunc quidem, not even then, erat, was there a concilium of leaving. And then you can repeat the nobis again, for us, both experienced in and expecting dangers. Let's see. Donec, until, that's an adverb. So there was not going to be a plan of leaving until, and since we used erat before, we'll stay consistent and imply erat again, until there was a message regarding my uncle. The hike here is going to be accusative neuter plural. we'll say these things, referring to all of the details that he's now included in the letter that he just wrote. These things that I was not about to write, or not intending to write. So this nominative participle is referring back to Pliny, nominative future active. And so remember, in his first letter, he had caught himself and decided not to include any of this, and then we assumed a follow-up letter from the emperor asking him to tell both his and his mother's perspective. And so he's reminding the emperor, not thinking this was near as interesting as what happened to his uncle, that these things I was not, by no means, for ne quaquam, by no means intending to write these things not worthy with respect to history, which you read. And so here we could imply a quae, and the quae would be an accusative neuter plural whose antecedent is the haec. So these things which I was never intending to write as worthy of history, which you read, quae leges, as you read this letter, implied. And then he's going to say, certainly, you will place or put, and this is a compound verb, so it'll take a dative, and it means you will place or put blame. The blame is included and implied in the verb itself, upon yourself. So you will certainly put blame upon yourself. You who, qui, and then our second person singular verb, requested these things. So in other words, if you're disappointed by the story, he never intended to tell you the story in the first place, and so therefore you only have yourself to blame for asking more. So if these things implied, and they're going to be predicate to worthy, digna here. So if these things ne videbuntur, are not seeming digna, worthy, for a letter indeed. So if these things, and the these things, we can even just put the race up here to imply that. If these things were ne videbuntur, not seeming digna, worthy, for a letter indeed. And that statement, of course, is conditional on this. Certainly you will put blame in putabis tibi upon yourself, you qui, who requested it. All right, that is the end of our second letter. Try to take this from the top as soon as you have a few extra minutes to start all the way back in section 1. That'll be good review for not only the upcoming quiz, but inevitably a Pliny unit test, and finally the AP test itself. Constant and frequent review is always going to pay off with major dividends. Good luck in your reviews.